year. Got an incredible program and lots of good announcements. And I'll go ahead and ask Brandon Lomax to lead us in our opening prayer.
Let us pray. Father, we come to you. We know that you are the source of our strength. We want to thank you for all of our blessings. Thank you for this week, this day, and every relationship, every interaction that we have. Let us reflect the love that you have given to us. We thank you for the food that you provided. We also, Lord, ask that you would watch over the kids as they get into trick-or-treating and all the activities that are taking place, and as we get into the holiday season. Help us to remember that you are the focus of our life, and we can do all things through your strength. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. If you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Christmas, Halloween, Festivus.
Kim likes to keep us on our toes, and this is the annual Halloween iteration of a very famous Christmas tune. But you guys have sung this before, and you're good at it. So, ladies and gentlemen, with Nancy's fine help, let's sing The Great Pumpkin Is Coming to Town.
Eakes.
We'll certainly look forward to hearing what Patrick has to share in a little bit. Do I see officially one guest left, and that's Milford. Milford, welcome back for another week or so, I think, and then we'll make Milford official, and Angela becomes official today as well. Other guests? Good to see you. All right. Moving along. Guests are always encouraged, by the way. If you have friends or family that are in town or kids off school, guests are always welcome and encouraged. I'll start with a couple announcements. We want to allow David and Patrick as much time as possible. Matt has been generous to share the Storm basketball schedule is up here on the table. If you're interested in the basketball schedule, you guys, the preseason rankings came out. Were you guys ranked this year?
Yes.
Where were you ranked?
No more. Don't say that.
Okay.
Go ahead. Don't go there.
The last for the national championship.
Yeah, this man is the no ratings. No ratings.
No question. Rat boys. Let's start with the bench, right? Start number one, finish number one, and everybody's good, right? Schedules are up here. Also, last week, I thought this was really incredible. After Wayne did his presentation on polio promise and what the district has for that, all the sheets that were brought were gone. There were that many people that were interested in signing up for polio promise, so we appreciate that. So, because the turnout was so good, we brought more sheets. So if you didn't have a chance last week to sign up to contribute and pledge your polio promise, and again, that's just $100 a year until polio is eradicated. So we talked about it that Hope has already taken care of $50 in addition, so it's another $50. Really, not a lot. I think Wayne said just a couple hamburgers from McDonald's. So Wayne?
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. I'll kind of add to it. We took in $690 and we had 12 people sign up for Polio Promise. And so Colleen said she's very proud of all of you.
That's awesome. Thank you. All right, those sheets are up here as well. You can even wear your Rotary t-shirt underneath. But you can order those over here. And again, those are not up for auction or bid. If you want to pay more, you're always welcome to. Do please look at your bulletin for next week's CCM food drive that we're working with CCM on. Next week is peanut butter and mac and cheese. That's not peanut butter mac and cheese, but peanut butter and mac and cheese. So please don't bring in a jar of peanut butter with a bunch of mac and cheese mixed in. That would not be good. And then the 13th is breakfast items. Okay. I think that does it for my announcements. Wayne.
Back again. Peyton has a few tickets left for the casino night for CCM's fundraiser, and so if you want to catch up with her, she's just got a few of those. We really love stuff.
Perfect. That's Friday, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. Brandon.
Just a reminder, anyone who was interested in riding the float with our kids, please let me know as soon as possible. We'll be trying to finalize the list of who's on the float.
Thanks, Brandon. I did just see this as I was looking through. Amy is still taking donations for a truck to go to Western North Carolina, so if you have items, if you can get those to Amy to go, that would be fantastic. And Amy and Rick, we appreciate what Sun is doing to help out there. So it's very, very impactful hearing about when the truck got up there, how it was unloaded and everything. So it means a lot. Thank you very much. Jen?
I just wanted to announce that Estelle's, which is the gift shop over here, will be open every day now through Christmas Eve at 10 a.m. Lots of great products from local artisans. So it also supports the nonprofits like Rotary, animals, and things like that. So come out and support it.
Thanks, Jen. Coffee Connections tomorrow morning at 8:30. 8:30 at the Finch House. Chamber Coffee Connections at 8:30 tomorrow at the Finch House. Thanks,
Gifts Galore is at Memorial on Saturday. We have a lot of local vendors and other vendors as well. Please come out and see those videos.
This Saturday?
Yes, 8 to 2 this Saturday.
Gifts Galore at Memorial this Saturday, 8 to 2, goes to a great cause, so come out to Memorial and support that. DJ.
Hey, I know it's just right around the corner, but we gotta start thinking about Christmas. Sheriff City Christmas is going to be Friday, December 20th. And it's a little typo in there. Just want to make sure everybody realizes it's not Christmas Eve. It is December 20th, so please put it on the calendar. We can't wait to have it.
Thanks, TJ. Other announcements? All right, I'll call David Carter. Got split the pot. I don't know if David got a backhand, but I don't know how he got split the pot. Heather wasn't here, and Jen and Kenny were both here, so I don't know if you didn't send Kenny a nice note or what, but yeah, you heard that. David's gonna take you to dinner. Get out and split the pot.
All right, we started off with $482. We collected 57, we got 539, split the pot will be 269.
269. After it's
Are you playing?
Okay, I'm only pulling one here. This is lucky number 337 007. Ticket. Told you blue ticket. Wow. 007. Did you feel lucky when you had ticket 007?
He told me it was lucky too.
Yeah. And now see, Dave's not over here today, but he's still got a ticket for it. Either nobody caught the 007 joker, or it just wasn't fun. All right. October birthdays. I do not look like Stan Sires, and I'm not Stan Sires. And Stan Sires was going to be here, and we got a message, I don't know, 10:30 or 11. And you know, Stan is witty, and he's a dry sense of humor. And so I started listening to the message, and I'm like, oh, this will be neat. No, it's not neat. apparently Shelton and his wife had a run-in with Yellow Jackets, and it turned out to be pretty bad. So he is not going to make it for October birthday, so we're going to postpone the birthdays till next time. So keep Stan and Shelton in your prayers. Joseph?
But we are not postponing putting money in the bucket for coffee.
That is accurate. Yes. So birthday money in the bucket. Birthday buckets are out today. Thank you, Joseph. Birthday buckets will be out again when Stan actually does do birthdays. All right. Angela, could I have you come join me, please? Angela, you applied to membership of the Thomasville Rotary Club. It was sent to the board, and after a vote, the board did decline it. They wanted to be a member of the Thomasville Rotary Club and Rotary International. So there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is we want to welcome you to the Thomasville Rotary Club. The bad news is you're taking on a lot more responsibility on your shoulders than you probably intended to do. So over your time as a Rotarian, there's going to be a lot of asked, a lot of participation, a lot of help, a lot of prayers, a lot of thoughts, and a lot of input. But we know you're up to the challenge. We're excited to have you. We appreciate Brandon and Allie bringing you on board. I know that you've got a lot to offer the club and to the community. We're excited to have you as part of the Thomasville Rotary Club as well as Rotary International. So will you all join me in welcoming Angela to the club? All right, you're done with me for the day, or at least for now. So at this point, I'm going to call up Doc. David, will you come and introduce your guest, please? Thank you.
Whenever you're ready.
You said Patrick had a thumb drive. I said I had a pinky drive. Do you know how to work either one? Because you're responsible for the presentation. Isn't that what it was? Stan is on Zoom now, as is Makiba and Diana. There you go.
Our guest today is Patrick Eakes. Patrick grew up in Greensboro, graduated from Northwest Gilbert, and then went to North Carolina State, where he got an undergraduate and a master's degree in mechanical engineering. I'm going to publicly announce as a truth that I grew up a North Carolina State basketball fan. I will tell you that in the early 50s, Paul Horvath, Ronnie Shadwick, John Maggio, Sammy Ranzino, Dick Dickey, and Big Booth. Those of you that think that Big Booth went to Duke, you're wrong. He coached at Duke and probably got him going before Coach K came, but he was actually a North Carolina State grad. Patrick came back to Greensboro and then started his own metal fabricating business. In 1998, he joined the Crescent Rotary Club. So his first vision about Rotary was Crescent and Greensboro. Later on, he got involved in the district, was a district governor. So his vision obviously changed from Crescent and Greensboro to about 50 clubs in the district. And he had lots of responsible jobs in the district. I remember that he was probably one of the best foundation chairs we ever had, taught me a lot, membership chair. But his vision expanded after that. He got involved in Zone 33 and 34. As perhaps you know, there are 34 zones in Rotary. All districts are members of a zone that's 2, so there's 17 international directors. So think about this today, that somewhere in the world, those 17 people are doing something perhaps with Rotary. We are fortunate that one of those is Patrick, and he is here with us. I'll also tell you that the only other person who's been an international director from this district is Jim Lambert, who grew up here and was he was international director in 72
great to be back with you all. I don't think I've been to Thomasville Rotary in 5 or 6 years maybe, but I have always had great experiences here. I see many friends across the room. Tommy, you'll be glad to know you trained me well. I'm now on the Rotary International Finance Committee, so thank you for all your tutelage. But many friends here, and it's really great to be back. So Doc asked me to talk about the Rotary Foundation. I've got, I think, 134 slides. We'll go through that over the next 2 hours. It'll be great. No, we're not going to do that. But I do want to talk a little about the Rotary Foundation. It is a companion organization to Rotary International. So Rotary International is what's called a 501c4. It's a social welfare nonprofit organization. The Rotary Foundation is a qualified charity. It's a 501c3. I'm talking Tommy's love language now, citing IRS codes. And it's really one of the finest that you'll find anywhere, the Rotary Foundation. And I'm not just saying that because we got a home audience here. Charity Navigator rates charities of all sizes, and not only have we gotten a perfect 4-star rating for the last 16 years, we've scored a perfect 100 for the last several years, and I can't even begin to tell you how hard that is to do. I actually went to the Charity Navigator site this morning and was looking at all of the areas where they provide scores for nonprofits, and it is deep dives in the way we operate. I think it's forced the Rotary Foundation to become even more efficient, more impactful, because they want to be well rated. And as you can see up there, over 90% of the donations that are given to the Rotary Foundation, largely by Rotarians, but some other significant donors, over 90% go to programs, which is pretty rare in the world of philanthropy. I'm always happy when I see 70% and above, because it does take, there's obviously some overhead that's involved with running the Rotary Foundation. And I see some folks here who are nonprofits who understand how all that works. So very proud of the Rotary Foundation. So we do talk about causes, or sometimes talk about areas of focus for the Rotary Foundation. And you'll see the 7 areas of focus here. 6 of these have been in place now for about 15 years. And the 7th, which is protecting the environment, was added a few years ago. Now, I sometimes get asked if there's any type of political bent to that. It's really not. It's not about climate change or anything like that. It really is focused on protecting the environment. So you'll see tree planting kind of projects. You'll see ocean cleanup projects. You'll see plastic recycling projects. Just to me, things that are just smart and good for the planet. But then these other 6 areas are areas that you're probably familiar with, and frankly, it would probably be hard to choose a project that didn't fall in one of these 7 areas, and often projects will cover more than one. The 23-24 annual report is not out yet, but based on the 2022-23 report, you can see over $250 million worth of grants made. The largest of those is polio, but I want to explain what's happening there. $157 million toward our #1 external priority, which is eliminating polio from the planet. Some of you will know this stat, but I'm going to share it for the benefit of everybody in here. When Rotary decided singularly, alone, that it was going to eliminate polio from the world, we had almost 1,000 new cases of polio every day. And this is crippling, sometimes killing for children. Folks here, I bet there are a few folks here are old enough to remember when polio was a real concern in the U.S. Yeah, I see nodding heads. I don't remember those days, but I certainly have many friends who have lived with the effects of polio, and sometimes had post-polio syndrome, which is just grueling, where it sort of comes back for a second round. So we started from 1,000 cases a day. Last year, in calendar year 2023, there were 12 cases in the world. Now this year we're back up to 62, and part of that, frankly, is some regime change in Pakistan and Afghanistan. So now we're dealing with new ministers of health, new, we'll call it philosophies, or approaches to addressing serious health concerns like this. But we still work with these folks, and it's interesting. Our male volunteers volunteers typically are working highways and checkpoints and areas like that and being sure children are vaccinated. Our women go home to home. In those communities, men are not allowed to enter other homes. So the women do the frontline work. And it's serious stuff. When you hear where we're attacking this problem, Pakistan and Afghanistan, we've got 34 of our female health workers who've been killed. So it is tough work. Our international president went to Pakistan about 6 months ago specifically to thank primarily those women who are risking their lives going door to door. But that's the reason we are down to under 100 cases in the world, and while we're really, really close to eliminating polio. Now, out of that $157 million is a $100 million grant from the Gates Foundation. They believe in us so much that they challenge every year, if you will raise $50 million, we'll match it with 100. We'll match it 2 to 1. And I have talked to people who have been at the computer screen at headquarters when the wire transfer appears for $100 million. Now, anybody ever seen that? Me neither. It's really something. The Gates Foundation, they made it very clear that they're with us till the end. World Health Organization, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, Gavi, which is a vaccine alliance, UNICEF, those are our partners. So really good penetration that we have. And frankly, I think if Rotary weren't leading this as a non-governmental, non-political, non-sectarian kind of organization, I don't think we could have gotten this far. Side note, Rotary is actually in more countries and territories than the UN. So that's the kind of penetration we have worldwide that allows us to attack this. You see district grants. Our district each year gets a block grant that is distributed out to clubs that you all are able to tap in to do local, shorter-term projects. And then you see that there are global grants, which are larger, sustainable projects of at least $30,000 in value. So our donations are used both locally and globally. And then you'll see the peace centers. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. So just mention that our humanitarian projects are at least $30,000 in size. Typically, clubs, in conjunction with district, will put some of that money up and then it's matched by the Rotary Foundation to leverage those gifts into even more. And frankly, the areas of the country where we're doing $30,000 grants, the spend is much more efficient, it's much more impactful than $30,000 would be in Thomasville or in Greensboro. Just the areas where we tend to work, that money goes a lot further. So it's a superb program. Then we have scholarships, also $30,000. And I sponsored one of our fairly recent scholars who actually saw this past week at Pittsburgh. We have something called Zone Institute or Zone Summit. And it's very much like district conference for district governors, but it covers the territory that I serve. So it goes from Lake Erie all the way down the East Coast across all the Caribbean nations to the top of South America. So 10 U.S. states, 28 Caribbean nations, Washington, D.C., like I said, the top of South America. But our global grant scholar, a young man named Will McInerney, who has spoken at our district conference, has spoken at some clubs, he was there and absolutely brought the house down in terms of the impact of his speech and his presentation. He's a spoken word poet. We sponsored him to get his doctorate at the University of Cambridge, and he's focused on reducing gender-based violence. The way we use our language, our arts, and our education programs to enlighten men, because it's almost always men who are perpetrating violence on women. And he's hugely successful. The London School of Economics has now hired him to head all of their work in that area. So that's what our investment got us in terms of sponsoring that scholar. Now, I mentioned Polio Plus, and I'll talk about polio a bit, but the plus is really interesting. The plus of that is that in addition to the polio vaccine, we embed vitamins, some other nutrients, and we get better health outcomes than just vaccinating children against polio. The other thing that's cool about it is we've had to develop cold storage and transportation, the vaccine has to be kept cold. And so by establishing that transportation network all over the world, for instance, in the case of COVID, we were able to mobilize that network to be able to get COVID vaccine distribution around the world. So it's had some side benefits. National Immunization Days. I've had several. Have any of you been on National Immunization Day? I haven't either, but I have several friends who have done it. Absolutely life-changing. They've been in Africa, they've been in India, they've been in places like that to vaccinate children. Now, there have been National Immunization Days where 80 million children were vaccinated in one day. Think about it, it's almost a fourth of the U.S. being vaccinated in one day. That's the kind of mobilization we can have. When I went to International Assembly, which is the last big training for district governors before they take office, it's typically in January, February. It was January of 2014, so a little over 10 years ago. I walked out of my hotel room, so I'm going to the opening session. We're all excited. They're going to announce the theme for the next year, all that stuff. I got out of my hotel room and I walked maybe 30 feet when another governor-elect came up and embraced me. It's like it was my mom who hadn't seen me in 20 years. I thought, what's up? And the man was weeping. And he finally choked out, "Today's the day. Thank you so much." And I'm thinking, what is he talking about? Right? And then it happened again. And when I got to the opening session, I realized it was the 3rd anniversary of the last case of polio in India. The country where the World Health Organization originally said, "You people are crazy. You will never be able to stop polio in India." So during the day, 5 or 6 times, incoming governors from India grabbed me and said, "Thank you, Rotarians. You've done the impossible." It was very sincere. I wish that I could have followed that somehow and share it with everybody. It was an incredible day. The number 2 of the World Health Organization flew from Switzerland to San Diego to thank all these governors for this effort, and then flew back. He was on stage for 10 minutes and did whatever that must have been, a 36-hour, 48-hour round trip to say thank you to us on behalf of you. Because the money you've given to support polio, the money you've given to Rotary Foundation has saved, at this point, approximately 10 million lives. Just incredible what has been done with stopping polio. Now, I mentioned the peace centers, and you can see up here on the map the peace centers that are around the world. Now, let's see. You notice there's one in North America, right? You all. Oh, it won't show on that screen. That's tricky. Oh. Okay. I'll put this down then. There's one in North America. Does anybody know where that is?
Chapel Hill and Duke.
Chapel Hill and Duke. UNC Chapel, this is a state guy. UNC Chapel Hill and Duke operate a joint center for world peace. I mean, is there any irony in that? If those people can work together, maybe world peace is possible. So you see that one. Additionally, we have centers in Tokyo, in Brisbane, you see down in Australia, in Uganda, Africa, Bradford, which is the UK there, just to the left of mainland Europe, and in Sweden. Now, the lower Southeast Asia location there is in Thailand. That one is being brought to a close. Just kind of, frankly, not quite living up to what we expect. But we are about, in fact, I just registered this morning to go to Istanbul in February to open a new peace center. A friend of mine who managed the foundation liquidated the foundation and gave $16 million to establish this peace center. She said it's important that we are in the Middle East. And that center will be a 1-year intensive hands-on graduate level certificate program that will take in people who've been working in an area of peace for 10 years or more, train them even better, establish a cohort each year of peace builders, and then turn them back loose into the Middle East to continue doing good. We now have over 2,000 Peace Fellow alums around the world. And it's incredible. They resolution, but they're poets, like I mentioned. They're urban planners who understand the way we lay out our cities has a lot to do with the way we interact with each other. Because it's hard to have conflict with people who are friends. So, well, maybe not, but it's hard to have life-taking conflict with people who are friends. We are narrowed down now to 2 potential centers, one of which will be the next peace center to be announced probably early next year. It will either be in India or in Korea. And they've narrowed down to those 2. I think they're probably waiting for someone to show up with another 16 million who'd really like to have it in his or her country. And then after that, we will look to establish a peace center in Latin America before 2030. But we want to be sure we are all over the world, that we're seeding the world with peace builders, people who are committed for the next decades, 20, 30, 40, even 50 years of building peace in this world. So important work there. Now, none of this happens without money, right? You knew I was going to work my way around that. I told you how good they do it on money and what we're getting done. You know I'm going to work my way around that. So there are 2 primary ways to support the Rotary Foundation, which is today our annual fund, our polio fund, contributing to a specific global grant project, or our disaster response funds. You all are aware of what has happened in Western North Carolina and what's happened on the Florida Gulf Coast. I have been coordinating with the Rotary Foundation. Our disaster response fund is just funded by donations. There was not enough money in there to make more than a $12,000 grant when Hurricane Helene hit. I happened to be at Rotary headquarters for 10 days. That fund went to over $300,000 while I was there. People started contributing to that disaster response fund. As a result, our district governors, the whole tract of Helene, as well as central east coast of Florida, where they had a bunch of tornadoes that spun off of Milton, 8 of those districts have been able to get $25,000 grants to work in their communities to help to start rebuilding. Likewise, I established a fund. Our zones are set up as a qualified charity. We set up a fund and we have collected $500,000 in cash and $500,000 in supplies over the last month. There'll be a huge pack at my business. We're the depot for the supplies. I am running down the room. The next Thursday, we will pack about $300,000 worth of supplies that will go to Western North Carolina. So that's the ways you can give today. Tomorrow tends to go to endowed funds where the Rotary Foundation will hold the principal, will invest that money, and the earnings will be used to support our programs. My wife and I have established an endowed fund to support the peace centers. And each year that spins off earnings that help support those peace officers. We tend to see IRA gifts, sometimes life insurance gifts, things like that are designed to have a longer lasting life. Now, I mentioned the annual fund, and I think of that as our checkbook. Yeah, this is genius. Gifts that go to our annual fund are held and invested for 3 years, and then they're spent. Well, holding that money, I don't know how you get started with that originally, asking somebody to give money and they're not going to do anything with it for 3 years, but now it's a rolling cycle. That money is held for 3 years, the earnings pay for most of our overhead as an operation. That's why we're able to give over 90% of every dollar given goes to our program. And sometimes if the stock market is really good, you give $1, we're giving as much as $1.20 because we're covering our overhead with those earnings. So it's a pretty cool system to set up. So out of that annual fund that comes in, a very small amount goes, it's 5% goes to help with some of the overhead, but then the rest of that is split. Our district actually gets half of that money back 3 years ago, three years later, excuse me. And that allows us to do some matches for clubs for local projects, some matches with clubs for global projects. And I don't know about you, I don't know of any other charities when I write them a check that half of it comes back for local control, for us to decide. And it's why I always think of the Rotary Foundation as our Rotary Foundation. It's controlled by Rotarians, both locally and my colleagues on the board for the Rotary Foundation. Now, I'm an engineer. That's just a ridiculous slide. That's too complicated. But if you want to trace it out, you can see the $1,000 up in that top center rectangle and how that gets divided between the World Fund and then DDF is district designated funds. That's what comes back to our district. But the important part is that really that money is split for local control and for global control, and it's the engine, it's the gas in our engine on what we do. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So recognition. Rotarians will do anything for some bling, right? Put something on your lapel. There's all kinds of recognitions that we give to people. You'll see the Polio Plus Society in the upper left there. That's for people who pledge to give $100 each year. I think, was it Dr. No, David, one of you mentioned Polio Plus Society. $100 each year. I mean, that's what, $850 a month, I think? Just to pledge that we're going to keep supporting polio year after year until the job is done. And the cool thing about it, as I mentioned before, is you give $100. The Gates Foundation is putting $200 with it. Your $100 becomes $300. That vaccinates 500 children. 60 cents a dose. I mean, it's pretty impressive what you can do with a $100 gift. The Paul Harris Fellow Pin. That Paul Harris Fellow Pin, it recognizes that a $1,000 gift is been made to the Rotary Foundation. Now, sometimes you may get given $1,000 over time. I know you all are a 100% sustaining club. You give $100 each to the annual fund. Sometimes it's honorary. Sometimes, for instance, 3 of our speakers at the event we had last week, that Zone Summit, because of their humanitarian work, I wanted to honor them. So I used $3,000 of my giving to honor those folks with Paul Harris Fellows. And they understood the significance of that. So it represents a $1,000 gift. Over time, some people become a major donor, which is that $10,000 diamond pin. And then you see some others on there. I know that you all have some Paul Harris Society members, folks who give $1,000 each year. Now, I mentioned Paul Harris Fellow. There's a couple ways to do that, but it all represents $1,000 of giving. You could give $200 to Polio Plus, you could give $300 to a Global Grant, and $500 to the Annual Club. That $1,000, it can be done over 20 years. It can be done at once. But it represents $1,000 of gifts to represent that, or to achieve that Paul Harris Fellow. And then I mentioned the Paul Harris Society, which is similar to Polio Plus, but it represents $1,000 a year commitment. And you get that little ribbon that hangs off of one of the other pins. So, interestingly enough, I think, yeah, I do have that up there. 30% of the intake of the Rotary Foundation comes from Paul Harris Society members who have pledged to give $1,000 each year. So how do you donate to the Rotary Foundation? You all have it down to a science in this club in terms of how each member gives $100. That is a great way to handle it. There's also the ability to just go to Rotary.org and make a donation if you want. If you say, hey, I want to give $50 to help with storm response, or I want to make a memorial gift for a friend who's passed, or whatever it may be, you can go to Rotary.org and click on the donate button. You also see how you can mail money in. There's no wrong way to give to the Rotary Foundation. I promise you, they'll be happy to process it. Talked about leaving a legacy, kind of what I call forever impact. And I referred to our annual fund before as our checking account. I think of this as more of our savings account, where we give money to an endowment that is held, and then that money is spun out each year. We have almost $1 billion in our endowment now. So even at a measly, let's say 4% average a year, who wants to do the math? 40 million, right? $40 million a year that's spun out to do good in the world. So that's $40 million a year we don't have to collect through that checkbook. We build that legacy, we build that endowment, and it spins off money to do good work forever. So it's pretty great. Now, we do recognize clubs that are 100% Paul Harris Fellow, like this club. Clubs that are 100% foundation giving, meaning every member of the club is giving to the Rotary Foundation, and you're hitting a minimum average. Like this club, and every year club, where every member is giving and the club is averaging $100 a piece. Like this club. You all are fantastic in these areas. And next week will be our Rotary Foundation banquet. The international president is flying in from Switzerland to speak. And you all will be honored along with some other clubs in our district for your great job of supporting our Rotary Foundation. So, why the Rotary Foundation? Well, for me, the biggest reason it's our foundation. We get to give gifts, and Rotarians control the investments. Rotarians control how the money is distributed. And in large part, Rotarians are involved in the actual grant work that goes out to the humanitarian work. But I do like this quote from Nelson Mandela. We can change the world and make it a better place. It's in our hands to make a difference, and I think it applies. I suspect we all have charities outside the Rotary Foundation that we'd like to support. I certainly do, but the Rotary Foundation is my charity of choice. Love our vision statement here. Tidbit for those of you who may be going next week to our Rotary Foundation banquet, Stephanie Urchik, our international president, she chaired the strategic planning committee that developed this about 8 years ago. I sometimes call her the mom of our action plan and our vision statement. But to me, the key words in this are the first word, together, what we do together, and then the last two words, talking about the change that we affect. Yes, we do it across the globe. Yes, we do it in our communities, but the change is in ourselves. I mean, that's where we get our payment, right? Somebody calls it psychic income. I think is what they call it, what we get for the good work that we do around the world. And the Rotary Foundation is really the vehicle for that. So I lied. I only had 26 slides, not 185, but just I want to give my thanks to your club that has for years and years, decades really been at the forefront of what our district is doing. You all set the pace in terms of your support of our Rotary Foundation. I was having a conversation earlier that I frequently cite Thomasville Rotary and Kernersville Rotary as gold standard clubs, and the reason I think is that you're the hub of your community. I'm in one of 9 clubs in Greensboro. There are a whole bunch of us running around. You all are the hub of this community, and I think it's just incredible. You know everything going on here. You have a chance to impact everything happening in Thomasville and beyond. I think it's fantastic. So thank you for allowing me to be with you today, and thank you for all you do to support the Rotary Foundation.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to take a question. If I don't know, I'm a smart guy like I am for you. Any questions, Rotary Foundation or Rotary or anything? I think you stand up and say that you're very good. Thank you all. I'll leave this up here, and I don't want to say much more because I think Patrick said everything that he could and did a fantastic job. There were a couple of things on there that hit home for me is when he was going over Paul Harris Society on this side and the future gifting and estate planning and that sort of thing. Years ago, there was a push for benefactors society, and that's a really easy thing to do of just piecing out part of your life insurance or IRA or making a little piece to be benefactor society, knowing where that's going later. You know, my wife knows how important Rotary is to me, but I want to make sure that that money is specified down the road. So we have personally, I have no problem sharing, we've personally done that in our estate plan for Rotary and other charities is the way we did that. So it's not just the here and now, it's what impact you leave later. And we talk about how Rotary is so much bigger than ourselves and bigger than the club and just the Thomasville community. And that's really a cool way to leave an impact with the work that you put in now. So if you will, stand and join me in the forward test. A few reminders before we close house. Holy form up here. Basketball schedules, sweatshirt orders, and food next week for CCM. And want to give special thanks to guests and to Patrick for being with us today and for the presentation. But as we think about what Patrick has to share with us and the ways that we can make an impact and do good across the world. And whether it's with financial gifts or with our time or with our talents or what have you, we're going to come across people that have different ideas of what's important to them. And so when we come across those people and we're having difficult conversations and conveying what Rotary means to us, let's ask ourselves these things. First, is this the